So we're going to move right into the next plenary. This morning we had the opportunity to hear from the various orders of government and on their perspectives and policy perspectives and ways of moving forward with regards to creating the settlement system in Alberta that we really want. And now we're going to have the pleasure to again go back to that idea that John had mentioned earlier about, you know, a settlement system that's effective really requires the concerted collaboration of multiple actors and multiple players. And so what we want to do with this panel is to actually provide some of those differing perspectives and look at how, you know, what are the unique things that they bring to this discussion and how they complement each other. So without much more hesitation, I'm just going to introduce the moderator for this plenary, and that's Chris Thomas, who is with Talent Pool.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's always one of these things that, you know, you start off the presentation first thing in the afternoon, everybody had a good lunch, the room here is wicked hot and it's a little bit too warm for everybody. Please don't fall asleep. You're going to hurt everybody's feelings, okay? If you need that feeling to fall asleep, wait until John's presentation later this afternoon, okay? That's the best place to put this, right? So that should be good. To follow up with what Mark was saying, we're hoping today that with the panel that we've got some differing points of view and some different perspectives for everybody to kind of hear a little bit about the different areas and how settlement affects different locations. And what we've brought is some people from the immigrant serving agencies. We've brought people here to talk a little bit about English as a second language training. We're going to talk a little bit about from the perspective of the Francophone community and a little bit from the idea of the employer side. To keep in mind with what John and Mark mentioned earlier this morning, the bios for everybody are available in our handy dandy little agenda here. So if you don't mind, you can read through those as we take a look and start the presentations off. And with that, I'm going to invite up Bill Campbell from Safeway, and he's going to give us a little bit of a run through this afternoon based on the employer's perspective.
Terrific, Chris. Thanks very much. Wow, what a great group. Talk about an overcapacity crowd here. It's great to see everybody. And as mentioned, I'm Bill Campbell, the HR Director for Safeway's operations here in Alberta. My team supports about 12,000 employees, and now that we're part of the Sobeys organization, we would be the largest non-government private sector employer in the province. So it's great to bring an employer's perspective for you this afternoon. Before I start, just thought I'd give you a bit of a snapshot from our perspective about the Alberta labor market. A lot that you've probably heard, but at least you'll hear it from my perspective. We've all seen the headlines in the newspaper. Here's some more recently that really address some of the issues that we're seeing here in the province. A while ago, and we saw one talking about labor shortages. Do they exist? And the answer, according to the Fraser Institute, is yes, if you're in Alberta and Saskatchewan. Calgary business leaders concerned about labor needs and the whole temporary foreign worker issue, which has been well publicized. And more recently, this was in the Calgary Herald last week, worker shortage handcuffs local businesses. This was a recent slide published by the Alberta government. It's a StatsCan report that really talks about the Alberta labor market and a 3-month rolling average for vacancies as of July. And it's pretty interesting if you're in Chris Thomas's world as a member of Tim Hortons group, or the restaurant groups, or hospitality, or retail like us. You're pretty concerned about the vacancy rates that exist here in the province. Certainly, according to StatsCan, the accommodation, food, and retail sectors have the highest job rate as of July, and with recent changes to the temporary foreign worker program, that'll get worse. September, the province published a report that talked about the unemployment rates across the province, and this provides a really great snapshot for where we're at here as of September in the province of Alberta. You can see that the Rocky Mountain House region, which includes Banff, Canmore, Hinton, and Jasper, as well as the Camrose, Drumheller, and Southern Alberta, really have the lowest unemployment rates here in the province. Of course, this is for September. That does change regularly. But I think the point behind this is, as we move forward, we're going to see circumstances where rural Alberta faces the greatest challenges. So from our perspective as an employer, you're pretty concerned. Whether you're a small employer or you're a large one like Safeway, you're concerned about the future as far as your ability to staff future vacancies. No matter what size, it's a problem, especially true with skilled employees. So we're really heading into a perfect storm, and here's some reasons for it. You can see these on the screen, not going to go through all of them, but declining birth rates, an aging population. One of the things at Safeway, we're very fortunate in the last labor shortage, we have a lot of long service employees, which has worked well for us. Our challenge as a company is they're retiring, and we're seeing more and more of that over the next few years. Business is booming here. Certainly, it's also booming in Saskatchewan and BC, northeastern BC. One of the reasons for northeastern BC, I'm not sure if you've heard about this, is something called the CDAM. Has anybody heard about the CDAM? You're probably in northwestern Alberta. Oh, that explains it. So for those of you that haven't heard about the CDAM, if you've been to Las Vegas, you've probably heard about the Hoover Dam. So picture a dam the size of the Hoover Dam, just outside of Las Vegas, being built 7 kilometers outside of the city of Fort St. John, British Columbia. So why that's a problem for us here in Alberta is as that dam starts construction, it's going to need 7,000 construction workers and a total of about 35,000 people if you include hotels, restaurants, and other staff members for the Fort St. John while that dam is under construction. So about 35,000 people will be needed over the 10-year period when they start construction next year. For those of us that work in northwestern Alberta, or if you're from northeastern BC, that's a huge problem. Another scary problem, and I know the Alberta government is doing their best to address it. In fact, I'm actually on the Curriculum Policy Advisory Committee with Alberta Education, so I know they're working hard at it. But we have a problem, and one of the problems is we have one of the highest dropout rates of high school students in Canada. That is a massive problem. Combine that with the fact that we have the lowest transition of high school students into post-secondary educational institutions. If you're thinking about skills and the need for skilled workers in the future, that's a huge issue. Obviously, provincial nominee programs with the 5,500 limits per year and the elimination of the temporary foreign worker program and the changes that occurred recently, that is a massive issue, and I'm sure some conversations have already happened today about that. The Express Entry program, a great solution, but we're going to see some changes as a result of that. Different kinds of people will be given access to Alberta. And in the end, the changes that have occurred really don't help employers that hire unskilled workforce like Tim Hortons or Safeway or many of the other companies here across the province. The biggest issue that we'll face, Calgary and Edmonton will weather through the storm. I think as it stands now, the biggest challenge we're all going to face is rural Alberta. And I can tell from Safeway's perspective, we're already facing that right now. So what can employers do? Some general thoughts based on a report published in 2008. One is obviously focusing on reducing the demand for labor, such as outsourcing and sending jobs offshore. That's not necessarily the best solution for Canada, but that is a solution that employers have. The other alternative really is to increase the supply of labor, and I will tell you at Safeway, we have really focused in on this. In fact, everything that you see listed there, I think we've done our best to try and really capture the underemployed, whether it's persons with disabilities, the Aboriginal community. We certainly partner with high schools. We have a comm strategy at Safeway, so that's one thing that we really focus in on. We have increased the investment in education. And I know that's a sensitive issue for some employers, but certainly that's something that the Safeway and Sobeys organization has done. Focusing on immigration, we actually don't have, at Safeway, we don't have any temporary foreign workers and haven't used them for years. One of the things we've done is really relied heavily on many of you who are in the room, the immigrant serving agencies. We've got some exceptionally close relationships with many of them here in Edmonton and Calgary, as well as across the province. And I guess also focusing on developing or implementing a diversity and inclusion strategy, which again is something that those of us at Safeway feel very proud of, and we've been on that journey for about 15 years. I hit the wrong button. Here we go. So our challenge today, the challenge you're talking about around settlement, is how can we ensure immigrants receive the support they need to be successful in the community and the labor force? That's really the key to our future, is really taking a close look at that and addressing the issue. we were asked to come here taking a look at, from our perspectives as a panel here, our thoughts on things that we as a group do well, maybe some opportunities as well. So here's some thoughts from my perspective. As far as strengths, obviously we've got an amazing economy it's a destination for immigrants and even Canadians from across Canada. Lots of great opportunities now and into the foreseeable future. A well-established network of immigrant-serving agencies, and this group of people here in the room represents that. A really strong team that is doing their best, provided by funding from the province and the feds, to really do a great job supporting immigrants as they make their way and settle into Alberta. We've got some great colleges, and I saw Todd here. Where's Todd from Norquest? Todd was here a minute ago. We've done some amazing things with Norquest College and certainly Bow Valley College as well. So we've got some great institutions that really cater to the needs of immigrant-serving agencies and employers and new immigrants as well. Some opportunities. So this is really addressing some settlement issues, some challenges, and I'm sure you're well aware of these more than even I am. Really, additional settlement supports. Making sure that we're going the extra mile to support new Canadians as they settle into Alberta and our cities. Family support's a huge issue. At Safeway, we're seeing some things that we haven't dealt with in the past. As people from around the world with different cultural beliefs, different values, different political systems come to work in our stores, our facilities, we're seeing some issues that we're having to learn how to address. And the same thing around youth supports, and certainly refugee supports are also needed. Additional training for immigrants in essential skills. I've long said, in fact, about 5 years ago, I was invited by the federal government to speak at a conference in Vancouver. And one of the things, the federal government supports 9 essential skills, but there's really a 10th one that's missing, that as of yet, I'm not sure it gets any funding, and that is really intercultural, or the cultural competency, understanding what it means to live in Canada, understanding the language that we use. It's not good enough to know just English, but you have to know the cultural nuances to the language we use, and I'm not sure that receives the funding and support that it needs. Career assessment tools. One of the things we've done pretty well at Safeway is really taking somebody. Here's an example. We took somebody who was an engineer, could not get credentialed in her field. And because of her transferable skills, she was able to go and get a job on our industrial engineering team, which we have at Safeway. So really having some assessment tools that help immigrants who may not be able to get credentialed in Alberta look at the transferable skills and see if we can find them a role elsewhere in an organization. And really supports for employers. Really having some business liaisons. Helping employers understand how to connect with immigrant-serving agencies and resources. I mean, I think as an organization, we've really focused on it, but there's a lot of other employers that would really benefit from the supports that are available in this room and across the province that don't have a clue that you even exist. So, really having employers or liaisons to help with that process. And training resources on how to hire and retrain a multicultural workforce. We actually just did something with Norquest College 3 or 4 weeks ago where they actually put my employment team through a training session on how to recruit in a multicultural workforce. And we're looking at rolling that out across the province. That's an example where there are some resources that are available in the community and other employers would benefit from it. Some opportunities for employers. There's a piece of the action for us as well. And really, you can't really successfully settle or integrate new Canadians unless you have a successful and well-developed diversity and inclusion strategy. So really making sure that the recruitment and succession planning strategies, training programs, policies, and workplace culture are supportive of a multicultural environment. That is absolutely critical, and I know we've been on this journey at Safeway for about 15 years. It's interesting, next week the Sobeys organization are going to connect with the team at Safeway and take some of the best practices that we've figured out and deploy it across the Sobeys organization. So it is an opportunity for all of us as employers to really do a much better job at making sure that we have the environment to support a multicultural group of employees. Critical to establish strong relationships with immigrant-serving agencies. Again, that's something I think we felt very proud of, and I know got some very strong relationships here. Probably the one that's the strongest is Fairboars and your team at CCIS, along with others, both in Calgary and Edmonton. That has really helped us out, and probably one of the reasons why Safeway hasn't used temporary farm worker programs. Because the best people to handle settlement and integration issues and really help employers are this group of people here in the room. Some opportunities for some government. I know we got some government people here in the room, so here's a message for you, at least from my perspective. It's all about funding. Sorry, people, you guys collect the taxes, so obviously want to make sure that going forward with the recent changes to the temporary farm worker program and certainly the express entry program, we're going to see a changing type of immigrants coming to Canada. And really it's going to be critical that a different type of funding and more funding is provided to this group of people here in the room for integrated training and bridging programs. Back to the 10th essential skill that I mentioned, for Canadian culture and workplace cultural training. That is missing right now. And a number of years ago, we actually opened up a store in Calgary, in Northeast Calgary. My team did a great job hiring. 70% of the people were new Canadians. They all spoke English. They all had a benchmark of probably 4 or 5, so they spoke English. But we did a team building exercise, and one of our vice presidents said, "Nobody here understands me," because not only did we not do a good enough job helping our new Canadians or new employees understand our own Safeway language, because we have a language ourselves. Really, they hadn't had a chance to learn the Safeway, the Canadian culture. That is a huge issue that really isn't addressed right now. And also funding for enhanced employment outcomes, such as career counselors and other tools as well. Holding annual employer symposiums. Really passionate about this. So those of you here who work for the Alberta government and the federal government, you've done a number of these over the years. 2006, the feds and province supported it was called Workforce Connects, and I was actually the co-chair of it, where we brought employers and the Aboriginal community together. It was a great starting point to get the conversations going about barriers and opportunities. 2010, the province, along with some federal government funding, had an employer program, and it was actually here at the Westin Hotel. Some of you might have remembered that. But I'm not aware of any others since then. So I think an opportunity for the province and for the federal government to pull the resources together, this group of people and others, and bring employers here to get into the conversation. This is an amazing group, but there's only 2 employers here, myself and Chris. It's an opportunity to engage employers more, and I think, again, an opportunity for the province and the federal government to help out with that. So immigrant serving agencies, the 80% of you in the room, here's some opportunities for you. Partner with other immigrant serving agencies. As an employer, it's hard to know because many of you offer the same services. So it's hard to know who to go to if you're an employer, right? So is there an opportunity to work together or maybe specialize with services? And certainly expand your network of businesses. And this is an incredible event, and it's obviously filled to capacity. But there should have been other employers invited to this session. Employers really, if they knew that you existed, would really be interested in helping out. Because in the end of the day, we've got to fill jobs. Just some quotes for you to wrap up. I thought these were interesting, especially the first one from Jason Kenney. A few years, he actually said this at a conference in Toronto in 2010. We know that within a few years, 100% of Canada's labor growth will be attributable to immigration. We know that with an aging population, we need newcomers to ensure that we have the workers and indeed taxpayers to move our economy forward. At the worker forum in this hotel in 2010 that the Alberta government sponsored, they had Glenn Hobson, the senior economist for the Conference Board of Canada, give an amazing presentation. One of the things he said was Alberta will have a bright future if we can get the labor market right and build an adequate supply of workers. He also said our failure to do so will leave businesses short of skilled workers and dampen growth prospects for the entire economy. So that's a scary prospect for all of us. So there's my 15 minutes of fame. Thanks very much for listening to me.